In today's society, we see people protesting everything from police brutality, discrimination in the workplace, abortion, and even today, a deadly virus. Like any other disagreement, there are always two different sides. Gay rights has been a big controversy for so long now, and some may even say for way too long. While one side protests and fights for the right to be treated like any other heterosexual human being, the other side fights to restrain their rights due to the simple fact that they love a person of the same sex. The anti-gays have put up countless amounts of roadblocks, drowning out their cries for equal rights. In 1977, singer Anita Bryant campaigned to overturn an anti-discrimination law protecting gay men and lesbians in Dade County. In 1980, there was a publishing of pseudoscientific pamphlets claiming to prove that gay people commit more serial murders, molest more children, and spread diseases. In 1982, the U.S. Department of Defense issued a policy stating that homosexuality was incompatible with military service. In 1998, a campaign prompting ex-gay ministries, which used discredited psychological methods to cure gay people, was made. In 1983, communications director for President Ronald Reagan calls AIDS nature's revenge on gay men. In 1985, Paul Cameron, who is an American psychologist, used the AIDS crisis to suggest that the extermination of homosexuals might become necessary. In 1994, more than 40 fundamentalist groups held a summit in Colorado to coordinate a special rights argument to oppose gay rights. In 2001, 2 days after the 9/11 terrorist attacks, Jerry Falwell blames the tragedy on, quote, the gays and lesbians who are actively trying to make that an alternative lifestyle. As hard as the anti-gay alignment was working to suppress their rights, the gay community wasn't going down without a fight. The fight for and against gay rights can be traced all the way back to the 1920s. During his service in World War I, Henry Gerber founded what is the first documented gay rights organization in the U.S., known as the Society for Human Rights. The group issued the country's first gay interest newsletter, which only lasted 2 publications. Despite making it known that the purpose behind his group was to, quote, promote and protect the interests of people who by reasons of mental and physical abnormalities are abused and hindered in the legal pursuit of happiness which is guaranteed to them by the Declaration of Independence, and to combat the public prejudices against them by dissemination of factors according to modern science among intellectuals of mature age. Police raids forced the group to disband in 1925. Henry and the group faced prosecution, but every legal proceeding turned highly prejudiced and followed with extensive negative media coverage. The Society for Human Rights crumbled following the warrantless arrests and unkind spotlights forced upon them. In 1966, 3 members of the earliest gay rights organization, second to Henry's, the Mattachine Society, staged a sit-in protest. The main goal of the group was simply to legalize homosexuality. The 3 men would visit taverns only to declare themselves gay and wait to be turned away with the intention of suing. Despite the state liquor authority initially denying the trio's discrimination claim, the Commission on Human Rights rebutted, arguing that individuals identifying themselves as gay had the right to the same service just as any homosexual person. For the next 2 years, the gay community in New York City rejoiced and felt empowered, maybe for the first time ever. The number of police raids declined, and gay customers, while still facing oppression, recovered what they viewed as their safe havens. This form of sit-in protest became one of the early successes the gay movement achieved. Compared to the many successes the gay community has accomplished living in today's society, the above seems so trivial. But to a gay person living during the 1900s, told that he now had the right of sitting at a bar and receiving adequate service without facing harsh discrimination, their life was now one step closer to that of a heterosexual's life, or rather a heterosexual's rights. In 2011, President Barack Obama repealed the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy. Before this policy ended, over 12,000 military officers faced dischargement for refusing to hide their sexuality. Before the retraction of the policy, 13 gay rights activists handcuffed themselves to the White House fence, calling for the repeal of the ban on service members serving while openly gay. Dan Choi, a former Army lieutenant, became the face of this protest when he led the 12 others to follow suit on the opening day of Congress's lame duck session. His timing put pressure on both the president and Democrats to retract the policy. The 21st century held multiple wins for the gay community. They achieved what Henry Gerber and the trio of the Sip-In protests could only dream of accomplishing. They achieved what Henry Gerber and the trio of the Sip-In protests could only dream of accomplishing. Every idea gay rights activists had, their hopes of having equal rights deemed impossible or too far-fetched, came about after approximately 28 years of constant fighting. The arguments behind the anti-gay stance are all weak at best. Some argue that gay men molest children at far higher rates than heterosexuals. However, according to the American Psychological Association, children are not more likely to be molested by LGBT parents or their LGBT friends or acquaintances. Gregory Herrick, a professor at the University of California, who is one of the nation's leading researchers on prejudice against sexual minorities, reviewed a series of studies and found no evidence that gay men molest children at higher rates than heterosexual men. They also argue that same-sex parents harm children, but no legitimate research has demonstrated that same-sex couples are any more or any less harmful to children than heterosexual couples. The American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry affirmed in 2013 that children with gay and lesbian parents do not differ from children with heterosexual parents in their emotional development or in their relationships with peers or adults. And they are not more likely than children of heterosexual parents to develop emotional or behavioral problems. It's pretty common to hear anti-gays say that people become homosexual because they were sexually abused as children or there was a deficiency in sexual role modeling by their parents. But no scientifically sound study has definitively linked sexual orientation or identity with parent role modeling or childhood sexual abuse. The American Psychiatric Association noted in 2000 that when dealing with gay, lesbian, and bisexual issues, sexual abuse does not appear to be any more prevalent among young children who grow up and identify as gay, lesbian, or bisexual than in children who grow up and identify as heterosexual. The National Organization of Male Sexual Victimization noted that experts in the human sexuality field do not believe that premature sexual experiences play a significant role in later adolescence or adult sexual orientation, and added that it's unlikely that anyone can make any other person gay or heterosexual. It's true that the gay community has paved their way and have earned some of the rights they so desperately seek, but the question still remains. Why is it that an issue that came into the light in the early 1900s is still something that today's society struggles with? As true as it is that laws prohibiting homosexual activity faded and were dismantled, same-sex couples can now marry and adopt children, gays and lesbians can now serve for their country, there is still a major part of that community out there fighting and desperately trying to advocate for basic rights concerning employment, housing, and basic healthcare without discrimination. How is it that in today's society, we call ourselves so evolved, but we can't give humans basic human rights just because of who they love?